Have you found some money? Have you ever found some money? I have. I bet you have too. Sometimes it might be a quarter or some pocket change or something like that on the ground. But one time I was with my wife and we went to a strip mall, like an outdoor outlet mall, And anyway, it was at night and we were walking back to the car. And when we were nearing the car, something kind of caught my eye on the ground, and I looked, and looked like some leaves blowing or something, and I looked down on the ground, and guess what? It was cash. Not only was it cash, it was like $70, just blowing like tumbleweeds or something like on the ground. So before it blew any further, I picked it up and gathered it and counted it real quick and looked around, and I didn't see anybody as far as I could see. I don't know what you do if you find money like that, but if I find money, I try to make it a practice. If I see people around, uh, if it's like a reasonable amount of people, I'll ask them, did they lose any money? Like cash. And a lot of times you ask people and they'll say, oh, yes, I did, especially if they think it's a lot, but they can't name the amount. Hey, look, I want to show y'all something. Look at this. This is ridiculous right here. Look at this. Well, you got to do it this way. Look at that. I don't know if you can see that. It's beautiful. Anyway, if they can't tell me the amount, well then I know that they're lying. That's all I need to know. But it's not only in times like that when you look on the ground that you find money. You can find it within your own household finances. And what I mean is this: uh, you can just use your own mind and just think about in the course of a day, you can write down every time that you swipe your card or pay cash for something, and just keep a little piece of paper in your pocket and write it down as you go. You could do that if you're real diligent, which I doubt most people are, but you could do that for a week even if you wanted to. But a more sensible thing, in my opinion, would be to get your bank statement from the previous month and try to go through it. Uh, be pretty boring and kind of nerdy, but you can come up with some categories of your spending. It could be things like housing, food, entertainment, utilities. Some people try to include internet with that nowadays. Man, that I wish y'all could see that. The sunset is just unbelievable. Man, it's not doing too good on the camera here, but look at that. It's a great spot. Anyway, just have to get some vitamin D here. Also, you spend money on your transportation and insurance and servicing your debts. Okay, things like that. You can come up with other categories if you want to, uh, but generally speaking, it will be things like that. Those things are things like that. But if you're honest with yourself and you really want to become financially free and have more opportunities, then you can even go further into those expenditures, like, for example, housing. areas that you can, things that you can live without. You can't live without air, can't live without water. You got to have shelter. That's true. But you don't have to have a mansion in the most expensive part of the state that you live in. But of course, if you're living somewhere, you want it to be free of pests like rodents or bugs or anything like that. It's gross, right? But you can live reasonably and within your means. You can do that. And generally speaking, a good debt to income ratio that you spend on your housing is going to be less than 36% of your income. So you can stack up all your income and you can say, well, divide that by 12 and then multiply that by 36% and see what you come up with. You might be paying too much for housing. That's possible. Then we're talking about food. Okay. Now, a lot of the people that like to eat, okay, they might include food from a convenience store and try to call that food when it's not. Or they might try to lump in restaurant expenditures as food when it's pretty easy to see that if you just take the amount of money that you would spend for a family of four to eat at a restaurant, you could probably eat for a week or most of a week or half a week and have them eating at home in the comfort of their home and maybe eating their pajamas or however they like to eat. So you can have more privacy. And if you learn to cook a little bit, you can have better food than most of these restaurants, especially nowadays. A lot of restaurants now, the quality has gone down and the prices have gone up, and they're using additives and chemicals and strange stuff in your food. And guess what? You're eating it. And sadly, I am too. We all eat things that we really shouldn't. It's a part of a lot of food now. But if you get your food from the grocery store and learn to cook it yourself, you can have food that tastes better and also costs less at the same time. And a lot of the older folks, they would say, well, yeah, of course. Well, a lot of the younger people now, they don't know how to cook at all. And those people spending at restaurants it's not necessarily wasteful in the sense that they're being stupid with their money. The truth is that they need to eat and they don't have the location or the supplies or the ability or the knowledge or the talent to be able to cook for themselves. So the only way that they really know to eat is for somebody else to cook it for them. And if mom's not around or grandma's not there or somebody like that, well, and they're left to have to cook it for themselves, they're very limited. In my case, uh, I have learned to cook some, but that was largely to relieve some of the burden on my wife, but also to give something good to eat from my family. But if you're a young person and you don't know how to cook anything, watch some YouTube videos, learn a little bit. You know, you can start with something simple like eggs, maybe, or rice, or something maybe that's common all over the world. And if you look at corn or rice or eggs and things like that, pretty much everywhere in the world eats some form of those things. But you can reduce your spending on food by doing that. Okay, so you got your list of your expenses and you've been honest with yourself. Uh, Hopefully, it was a little bit painful to be obvious about your spending. Uh, and I'm not trying to say that folks ought to count every penny and squeeze Abraham Lincoln until he cries on the penny, But you need to know what you're doing and be observant of your own habits. And if you have bad habits with money, you will be spending money and you won't really realize where it's going because it just seems natural to you or a part of your life. So you have to recognize those habits and those tendencies and try to curb them as much as you can and develop good habits. Okay. But when you got your list all there and you thought about it for a while, then divide all those things into what you can't live without and what you can live without. Well, whatever those things are that you can't live without, cut them out. Stop the subscriptions. Stop buying beer. Stop smoking. Stop eating at restaurants. Stop all that stuff. Sometimes in these big companies, when you get over budget, the upper management calls and says, "Hey, stop buying anything. Don't buy anything. We're over budget already." Okay. Well, you need to do that too. Your upper management needs to call you and your spouse and say, "Hey, we're over budget. Who's spending over there?" Send emails to yourself and like, "Whoa, y'all are crazy." Because if you overspend and you create a deficit for yourself, you may not be able to overcome it, or it may take years and years for you to overcome it. And that is a burden and a shackle and a chain that I wouldn't wish on anybody. But so the things that you can eliminate, eliminate them. Okay. Now, on the topic of debts, okay, if you have debts, okay, certain types of debt are something that, unfortunately, at least for a period of time, you have to live with them, at least most people. Uh, Unless you're some kind of master negotiator and you can just come in as an all cash buyer and buy properties or vehicles or something like that. And there are people like that, and I hope you develop skills like that so that you can get bottom dollar for that thing and never pay a cent of interest. But most people, even people who end up like what I just described, where they can strong arm the salesman and or walk if they don't get what they want, uh, even people like that, or people like me and you, have to negotiate with the dealership to get a car, and we have to put a bid on a house. We have to make offers, I guess is the better word to say. And eventually you come to terms with whatever that debt is and the term that you'll need to pay that if you follow the amortization schedule. And uh, a lot of times those things are front loaded. And by that I mean the interest and fees and stuff is all on the front end. So for a period of time, uh, especially for something like a house, all you're really doing is paying interest. Now, if you're paying on a house and you're paying interest in a mortgage, and slowly over time, the uh, the amount of interest that you pay comes down. This is assuming that you bought uh, in a good area that's not plummeting in value. But if you made a good purchase, if you selected a good location to live and it's owner occupied, then because of the depreciation of the dollar and the the housing values just naturally get higher as a result of the dollar going down, because it takes more dollars to buy the same square footage over time. There was a day you could buy a house for $1,000 or something like that. Well, can't do that now, especially not in California. Okay, but you'll be paying interest for a period of time, and if you made a good selection, the percentage of money that goes to the principal will increase over time. But for a long time, it's going to be going strictly to interest, or primarily to interest. So as you're paying this thing down, first off, the salesman and all those people, and the real estate agent and all the people lined up with their hands out, they all get paid while you're living in the thing or driving it or whatever. They all get paid. Do you really own it? No. Unless you got the deed in your hand, and and it belongs to you, solely you, or you and your spouse. You don't own that. Now, they'll call you a homeowner, but you don't really own it. And people know that with a car. They say, "Well, I'm buying it. I'm buying this car," and they'll say that they bought it, but they didn't really buy it. They're making payments, and some of them are hiding from the repo man. I remember one time I went to the grocery store one time, and my wife wanted me to get one item, something like that, one or two items from the grocery store. I think she was cooking. She was in a hurry and she needed me to go get something. Do you know that I went to the grocery store that was near my house? And as I approached the door, the doors that do this, well, I was walking like this, and there was a woman, it's a black woman about my age, and she was walking like this. And you could tell by the speed and the direction that we were going to converge, like almost at the same time at the door. So as we walked toward the door, I noticed her and she noticed me. And we walked in at almost the same time. I guess she was processing the same stuff that I was. Well, I went in there and got the stuff, and the one or two items, whatever it was. And I didn't know what she was doing and didn't care. But, I think we both noticed that. Well, I got up to the register, the self checkout thing, and it just so happened that here she comes too, to the self checkout. And she had done the same kind of thing as me. She had gotten like one or two items. That's it. In fact, I don't know that my feet really stopped walking as I passed through the store. I don't think she did either. Excuse me. She got like one or two items. Well, because of the way the traffic was at the self checkout, she paid about, I don't know, a few seconds before me. So when we were walking to go out the door to go back to our cars, she was in front of me. And when we went out those doors, and she walked out in front of me, she stopped and dropped her bag on the ground and started cursing. And she was in my way, and I looked at her, and then I looked out ahead, and guess what? It was the repo man driving away with her car. Just in the time that we were in there, he had got that thing. Kudos to the repo man. I guess he was tracking. But anyway, you don't want to live like that. You don't want to come out and have unexpected surprises like that. So you want to get out of debt and not have anybody be able to lay claim to your money or your time. I'm sure that was a bitter pill for her. But anyway, so if you're going to eliminate debt, okay, generally, there's a few different ways. Okay, one is what they call the debt snowball, and this is where people like Dave Ramsey talk about it, and they say, well, you start with the lowest balance first and start to work it down. And then, you put all your money on that smallest balance first and eliminate it. And just make the minimum payments on the other stuff. Then when that one is paid off, you go to the next highest balance like that. Excuse me, and you work your way up until you get to the most expensive thing, which for most folks that'll be a house. Okay. And then eventually you can pay that house off. Okay, well, uh, another way to do that is what they call the debt avalanche. This is where you can take the highest interest rate, okay, and it's like it's on a precipice or something, and it starts to fall the highest balance down to the lowest balance, okay, and you can get all nerdy, and try to argue and see which one you think is better or uh, more advantageous or speediest to get to your debt free goal. But that's not really what's important. What is important is having the habits and the determination and the self control to make wise choices with your money, because you can have the genius plan invented by the smartest man in the world. And if you uh, waste money every day, you will never be able to accomplish anything because your habits are bad. So work on developing good habits. Okay. Here comes the third method, which is my favorite. It's what I like. And it's called the cash flow index. Now, what you do with the cash flow index is you take the balance and you divide it by the minimum monthly payment. If the number that you get from that is less than 50, you can think of it like a gear ratio for you guys out there, or anybody who likes mechanical things. If it's less than 50, it's a terrible ratio, okay? And you need to fix that. So that's what you want to hit first. Okay. Hit that with everything you got if it's less than 50. If the number that you get for the cash flow index, remember again, here we go, balance divided by minimum monthly payment. Okay. If it's 50 to 100, this is a candidate for refinance, try to get a lower rate, different things like that. Okay. And you may not be able to do that, but a lot of times you can if you shop around a little bit and see what's out there. But if it's 100 or greater, this is a good ratio. You're getting a good bang for your buck with that. Okay, so now you need to examine the terms of your debt. Okay, and I'll use a car or a house, either one. Okay, now I'm not trying to tell you to go to law school and learn a bunch of legal terms and try to pass the bar or anything like that. But try to learn what these terms that are in your mortgage. Look at your mortgage document. Look at what it says. Look at the terms. Okay. Now, when it comes to mortgages, they have to show on a single piece of paper all of the important details. This is a legal requirement now. So if you look in there, you'll find it. It's all on a single sheet of paper. This is a legal requirement. They're not trying to be your friend or be nice to you. They have to do this by law. But it's right there. On your car loan, you can look at that too. And they like to pack a lot of goodies, to please their managers and make better commissions for themselves by padding the bill. But what I'm getting at is look and see if let's say that the payment is $400, for example, and you want to pay 500. Okay, you need to find out. You can read those documents and get a little education for yourself, which is a better thing to do. Uh, or you can call them and just ask somebody and get them to tell you. Now, they might lie to you. It's possible they'll lie to you, and they shouldn't. And it's illegal for them to lie to you. But they may, just because they don't know what they're talking about, or you know, you're talking to the wrong person, maybe. But what you need to find out is, in this example, if you have $400 going to the car as the car note, and you pay 500, what happens to that other $100? Does it go in some bank account for them, for the lender to ride on your money and make interest on it. $100 ain't nothing, but if you do that across thousands of customers and you've got that in something that's an interest bearing account, it can stack up to quite a bit of money. Okay, so is it in some kind of limbo? Is it in purgatory or something like that? What's going on with that $100? Okay, if it's going to the next payment, okay, uh, well, if you hurry up and pay them, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're doing them a favor. You're gonna hurry up and help them buy a new boat for themselves or something like that. This is no good. So, and if you have a loan that's what it does, you should look to refinance and turn that debt over to someone else, to another lender. You know, but what you're looking for is that extra $100 to go to the principal. Okay, so you can do this. This is gonna chop that stuff down, and you're gonna see it. If you do this for a couple months or so, you're gonna see what I'm talking about. Run the numbers on your debt. See what the cash flow index is on your stuff. Okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and you can make it. It's there. Now you got to be determined, and you got to maintain your bearing, and you know, watch your habits and stuff like that. But you can get out of this stuff and be in a much better place. Okay, because if uh, if somebody needs insulin, okay, and it costs $100, and you don't have $100, this is a place you don't want to be. Okay, if you find out about something that you could buy for $100 and sell for $150, and you know it, but you don't have the $100, this is not where you want to be. You got to have you've got to have cash available. You can't be living like that. And did you know that if you spend all your money, you won't have it anymore. Somebody else will. Somebody else will be getting rich, but it won't be you. Okay? So, do both. Do the cash flow index, okay? The debts that have 50 or less as the cash flow index number, okay? Attack that with every penny that you cut out of stuff that you can live without, that stuff that you eliminated. That freed up cash. And that's what you need. You got to have cash. They might have tricked you before, okay? But you're going to stop being tricked, okay? So, put it on that and then put extra payments and make sure it goes to principal. Now, as you do that, you will own that car. You will own that house, and you'll be a true home owner and car owner. And you don't have to always have a car payment. You don't have to always have a house payment. But I would advise you, if you're going to look for a house, don't think about the next 3 to 5 years like most consumers. Think long term. Think about staying there for a long time and developing real equity, which is another source of cash that you can access one day. Stop giving all your cash to everybody else. But you can't retain cash if it's going to these debts they're like piranhas or something. If you're really fast, you can get out of the water before the piranhas get you, okay? Or you're down with the wildebeest down there at the water in Africa, and here's the crocodiles, okay? If you're real fast, you can get away from them, but you don't want to be at the mercy of something like that, especially in the case of legal documents that you sign that can be legally upheld in court, and they can get garnishments for your wages, which is your time, and time is what life is made of. So let's get to freedom, y'all. Let's pay off our debts, and let's look forward to opportunities. it's so much better if you don't have all your time counted for and say, well, I sure would love to go be with the family, but I got to go work overtime because the piranhas are trying to get me, or, I need to go to the grocery store, but I'm scared the repo man might find the car when I'm in there, like that lady. You don't want that. So let's get out of debt. Let's get on board the train. Let's get out of here. Let's get to a better place, a place with great opportunities, a place of free cash flow, a place where our bills are reasonable and manageable, and where we have peace in our home, and we don't get uh, into arguments with our spouse about money. This is no good. We need to love each other. We need to love each other, and we need to have peace. And financial peace is a big part of that. I hope you're doing well, and we'll see you next time.